So before we get started on this week's episode, let me tell you about our presenting sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. Now, Hunt to Harvest is back with us for our second season here at 3 Wide. And right now, if you head over to hunttoharvest.com, you can check out their new spring collection of shirts, both in turkey hunting, duck hunting, and several fishing options. They also still have their mystery box special going on where you can get 3 shirts chosen at random sent to you for just $33. So you don't want to miss out on that deal. Head on over to hunttoharvest.com. Click on the mystery box option there at the top, select your size, and when you go to add to cart and check out, be sure to enter that promo code RADNEY18923 so you can get even more savings at checkout. And this is all at huntharvest.com. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 3 Wide. I'm your host, Radney Crawford. Today we're going to be going over Sunday's race at Bristol Motor Speedway in the third running of the Bristol Dirt Race. Now, Christopher Bell came away with the win, his first of the season. And while this was the best dirt race so far at Bristol that we've seen, there's only been 3 so far, I believe it is time to now shelf the Bristol Dirt Race. Time to go back to the original Bristol Spring date where it was run on the pavement. I think that will bring a lot of benefits to the sport. I'm not against NASCAR running on the dirt or seeing dirt races. I just think it should be at an already established dirt track, much like Knoxville or Eldora. And those are the 2 main tracks that you will hear named just because, as I said, they're very well established, very prominent in the dirt community. And also, I believe the legitimate ones that can hold a NASCAR Cup race. And when this dirt race at Bristol started, it was a good idea. It was some outside-of-the-box thinking, and it injected some new life into the spring date for Bristol. You could see the crowds before they started. It was really dying off. But this whole new dirt track, this novelty gimmick of a race, it attracted a lot of interest from me included, and I feel like each race has improved. However, I think it's time to go back to the original layout. With the new short track package, if it continues to impress, and we'll find out here soon at Martinsville this upcoming weekend, and especially when they return to Bristol in the fall, I think that will inject some new life back into the concrete pavement layout at Bristol Spring Race. And also, I think it'll bring a lot of fans back out to see the old Bristol back in the spring. I do believe for the future of this spring race for Bristol Motor Speedway eventually will go away. I think this is a bridge date until they can get the Nashville Fairgrounds race approved. It keeps it in that Tennessee market, and it also, again, injects new life into this date. It'll attract fans from all over. It's going to be a huge deal when they go back to the fairgrounds. It's just got to get through this long approval process. So why not go ahead and make the switch back to the original Bristol, get the most out of it that you can before this date is taken away. And you heard drivers throughout the weekend, they sound like they're over it. They're ready to get back to the way it was. Drivers like Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin, Bubba Wallace, including dirt track legend Jonathan Davenport even was discussing it. Jonathan said in his post-race comments that this race is a lot of fun. He would love to do it again, but it is a novelty. It's just not true dirt track racing. These cars don't drive like regular dirt cars. They don't belong on the dirt, there's a lot of fact there. He wasn't trashing NASCAR or the Bristol dirt race, really, but fans were, of course, quick to jump on it, saying, well, why come over here if you're just going to bash the sport? You can learn a lot from these guys who are crossing over into the sport. Jonathan brings a lot of knowledge of the dirt racing community to this race. He didn't just, slam NASCAR or anything. He said it himself, it was a lot of fun. He'd love to do it again. So just pump the brakes there on his comments. Listen to what he's saying in, his whole interview, not just, a soundbite of it. It brings a lot of information out. And you had drivers like Bubba Wallace talking about this being a gimmick race. He's not wrong there. I mean, when you lay dirt over a perfectly good racetrack to try and attract attention and bring back in the crowd, that is a gimmick. So, like I said, I'm not against dirt racing. I just think it could be better served instead of pouring dirt all over one of the better tracks that are on the schedule. So, hopefully, we see better racing in the fall with this new short track package when they come back to Bristol. And Marcus Smith, he had an interview over the weekend, And he did not say anything about next year being run on the dirt again, whereas last year they went ahead and announced it, going ahead and trying to get these ticket renewals going. They've been pretty quiet on it so far, and that leads me to believe that this may truly be the end of the Bristol dirt racing experience. And I'm okay with that. I think this was a fun deal, but eventually when you do something like this novelty type race, it's time to move on and get back to business. I applaud them. I applaud NASCAR for, taking the chance from the get-go to do this, and they have consistently improved this race each year. I just, like I said, I think it's time to move on and go back to the original Bristol race. Now, we did see some excellent racing Sunday. They had more passes than we've seen before. At the other two Bristol dirt races, there were less lead changes, but still a lot of good racing going on through the pack. And the best head-to-head that we saw was Ryan Preece and Kyle Larson. They got into a little bit of a scuffle where Ryan Preece was trying to get a run on the outside of Larson coming out of turn 4. Larson rides him up into the wall, and in the next caution, Ryan Preece showed his displeasure, going up and on both sides of Larson, showing he did not appreciate that move. And Preece is a no-nonsense kind of driver. He lets it be known that he does not want to be raced like that. He has come up through the modified series, working on his own car. He doesn't want to see his equipment get messed up. And you remember last year his deal with Carson Hocevar, how he raced. Ryan Preece is definitely not a guy that wants to be raced like that. So Ryan Preece gets on the inside of Larson, going out of turn 2, and rides Larson up into the wall, and they beat and bang coming out of the corner a little bit. They get a little space between them, and you see Larson come back down the track. Now, this is where the debate gets a little heated. Some fans are saying that Larson's car broke. He had no control. That's why he went down there and made contact with Preece. Others are saying that it was intentional. Either way, Larson made contact again with Preece going down the back straightaway, wound up spinning himself out, putting himself into the wall, and pretty much ending his night there. Now, where I fall in the debate of was his car broke or was it intentional, I lean more towards the deliberate side. I think Larson, while his car obviously was in a mess, he probably did have, broken toe link, or his steering was probably off. I think he went down there to try and resend a message and possibly try to take Ryan back out. Unfortunately, it bit him. And the reason I think that is you see him come off the wall, drive back down pit road, come across the track, pull perfectly into his pit stall. Granted, he wasn't at race speed, but still he did have some control over his car. And Larson was not happy about it in the in his interview, after he got out of the infield care center, saying basically he thought they could be grown-ups and move on after the earlier deal with Preece. But Larson, this is his style of racing. Even Denny Hamlin said it in his podcast, that Larson is the type of driver that will put you in these situations to lift or go into the fence or get spun out. And in this case, Preece didn't lift. Preece thought he had the run, and he thought he had the room, and Larson shut the door on him. We saw it last year a few times, especially early in the season with Larson, with Justin Haley at the LA Coliseum, Chase Elliott at Auto Club Speedway. And Ryan is just a guy who's not going to back down. And I give props to Preece for sticking to his word, because a lot of these guys, they will say, I'm going to get him back, or somebody needs to go bust him in the mouth, or whatever they say when they're mad, and a lot of times nothing happens. Preece followed through with it. Now, of course, this leads to, will he get penalized like we saw with Denny Hamlin after the Ross Chastain deal at Phoenix? And so far, today's Wednesday when they normally announce penalties, there's been no announcement. I don't expect penalties against Preece. He got out of the car and said he was simply loose. He doesn't race on dirt, and got up into Larson. It was not intentional. And some fans and media members in the sport, they keep talking about, well, now these drivers are going to have to get out and lie, and they're not going to be honest with themselves. There hasn't been one time in the sport where drivers have been 100% honest getting out of the car. You have your few where drivers are mad enough, they're going to get out and be honest about it. You come to mind, you think of drivers like Tony Stewart being the main one, as well as Kevin Harvick. They are going to be honest and upfront when they're mad. But the rest of the time, drivers are going to say exactly what Preece did. I got loose, I had a tire go down, something broke. Some excuse for why they got into a guy who they just so happened to have contact with earlier in the race. So I'm not too worried about that. These drivers lying, are they going to tiptoe around it more now for the next little bit, most likely, until the heat kind of dies down and we get further away from this Denny Hamlin deal from Phoenix. But eventually somebody's going to get mad enough they're going to be honest, and I don't think NASCAR would do a penalty then. What made this deal with Hamlin different from Phoenix was him going on his podcast and talking about it. Whether you believe that's right or wrong, him doing that, that's where that penalty comes from. I didn't have a problem with Denny's move on Ross at the end of the Phoenix race. I got no problem with Preece's move on Larson here at the Bristol Dirt Race. It's part of this sport. Drivers are going to get mad. They're going to take it out on each other, beat and bang on the track. And as I've said before, to me, once you get on pit road, that should be the end of it. Quit beating and banging on your cars when you got crew guys and officials and media members standing around. Get out, handle it face to face if you need to. Thanks for watching this week's episode of 3 Wide. If you want to hear more NASCAR discussion, you can click on any of the links below in the description. That takes you to my weekly NASCAR podcast, where this week we're going to be discussing more in depth about the Bristol dirt racing action, as well as the controversy around the Chicago street course, the appeals hearings we heard over this past week with Denny Hamlin and Ross Chastain, as well as Colleague Racing, and discuss the upcoming race weekend at Martinsville, where William Byron, I feel, has a very good chance to repeat his win from last year, and the return of Chase Elliott. So I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. You can also find me on Twitter and Facebook. My Twitter and Facebook handles are right there next to me. And we will see y'all same time next week and go over all the action from Martinsville Speedway.